What's up guys, we know you've been digging our state urban legends, so we've got you guys some new countries as well. We're your hosts Makayla
and Andrew, and here are your top 10 Malaysia scary urban legends. At a number 10 spot, we have Janet's ghost. According to legend, Janet worked as a young Chinese nurse in Kuching's public hospital. According to the story, she vanished sometime in the late 1960s. This occurred when kidnappings in the city were on the rise. The only things that anyone had determined was that the kidnappings might have been related to the building of Satok Bridge. The territorial spirits would be annoyed if the bridge's constructions were delayed. To appease them, human sacrifices had to be made. Apparently, they preferred to sacrifice virgin girls, but only to use their heads. This meant they would be decapitated and their heads would be embedded in the concrete pillars to strengthen the bridge. Eventually, they found Janet's headless body, confirming the police's theory. Her grieving parents went on to bury her in a red dress and red shoes. So many people believe that if a woman passes away wearing all red, then she will return as a vengeful spirit.
Now at number 9, Pontianak. The word Pontianak is a combination of 3 words: Pana, lady, Mati, dead, and Anak, child. Pontianak takes after a lady who lost her baby during childbirth. She is often dressed in white and has long black hair, and is known to seek revenge against men. Many have said they have encountered this bitter being while on the road in the dark hours. When the Pontianak is near, dogs howl and you can hear a baby crying, and you smell the scent of jasmine flowers out of nowhere. That's how you'd know this vengeful creature is in the area. During the day, the Pontianak hides in banana trees, and she starts her hunt when there's a full moon.
At a number 8 spot, we have the Crack Highway. This Malaysian highway is said to be the world's most haunted highway. It is a 70-kilometer long interstate highway that connects Kuala Lumpur to Genting Highlands. The amount of paranormal reports from this highway alone is enough to make someone take a longer detour instead. The first of these incidents happened when a couple and their baby were returning one night from vacation. The car suddenly breaks down on the side of the road, and as he looks for someone to help, he notices the highway is completely empty. So he walks to find the closest nearby phone booth to call for help, but the man never ended up returning. After a few hours of waiting, his wife calls the police, but when they arrive, they tell her to step out of the vehicle and not look behind them. After walking a distance away, she turns around to see her husband's headless body being devoured by a banshee-like creature on the top of their car. As well, on Crack Highway, if you find yourself stuck behind a yellow Volkswagen Beetle, get away from it. This vehicle is known to stalk drivers and cause them to get into fatal accidents, so drive extra safe when you're in Malaysia.
Now at number 7, Reddit story. The story is posted by someone on Reddit who lives in Malaysia. I saw a ghost when I was like 9 or 10 years old. It was early in the morning, about 6:30 a.m., and I was having breakfast alone in the kitchen when this rotten face, twice as big as a normal head, reared from a corner that led to the back door. One of its eyes was hanging out of its socket. There were holes in its cheeks, stuff oozing out, worms, etc. I was stunned for a good 5 seconds staring at it, and then I snapped and ran upstairs and got my dad. My dad came down, and of course that thing was gone, and my dad showed me the back door was locked. We moved out from the house about 5 years after that, and only then everyone shared their story. My mom said a neighbor saw a hairy leg as big as a coconut tree trunk behind the house. My brother said his friends saw some people dancing in the vicinity while carrying a coffin.
At a number 6 spot, we have the Orang Minyak. The Orang Minyak, or the oily man, is a creature that takes the shape of a man that is covered in a thick, murky black oil. It comes out at the darkest time of night and when it's almost impossible to see it. It snatches young women in rural villages when they're sleeping, and this is why many fear oil spills in the country, oddly enough. It can shapeshift into oil to slip through cracks in the walls and the floor, so basically there's no place to hide from the Orang Minyak. In Malaysia's past, a young woman were told to wear clothing that was worn by a man so that this creature couldn't catch their scent. Keeping a mirror nearby is a must because this creature does not like its own reflection. This became such a big urban legend that some girls would cover their rooms in complete mirrors, but in my opinion, that is just as creepy as this creature.
Halfway at number 5, Villa Nabila. Some people will be able to connect this location with the 2015 Malaysian horror film by the same name. As the legend goes, a house help, in a fit of intense jealousy, killed all the family members residing in this villa. She buried their bodies all over the premises, but surprisingly, even the investigators could not locate the remains. The spot came into focus once again in 2013 when 23 teenagers were reported to have gone missing at Villa Nabila.
At a number 4 spot, we have Palau Jerizak. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. Palau Jerizak is a small island located alongside Perang Island, and if the shark-filled waters wasn't enough for you to avoid this place, then maybe the ghosts of former prisoners may. This island mainly served as a place to keep the sick, the poor, and the bad. For example, people suffering from leprosy and tuberculosis were thrown onto this island to isolate themselves from others. Reports claim that over 1 million people were crammed on this island to quarantine, and over 5,000 people passed away. Then in 1969, the island transformed into a prison, except this prison would contain those arrested under the emergency ordinance, which is basically people detained without trial. So you already know this gets bad. This prison was very inhumane. Prisoners would be tortured often and left malnourished, which would later claim for their lives. Now it's said that the island contains the spirits of those left to pass away there. And since Malaysia is attempting to make this a tourist spot, many people claim to hear the screams of those tortured on this island, or others fall into a great sickness after coming from the island.
Now at number 3, Pudu Jail. Jails have a history of unfulfilled wishes of freedom, much like the spirits that cannot transcend to the afterlife. Constructed during the British regime, the Pudu Jail confined over 2,000 prisoners of war during the Second World War. Visitors have experienced unnaturally hot and cold spots in various spots of the prison. The execution chamber often burst into screams even though it was apparently empty. Despite the fact that it was demolished in 2009 and a commercial development took its place, strange activities are still reported occasionally.
All the way at our number 2 spot, we have the First World Hotel. Oddly enough, this obviously isn't the first hotel in the world, but the largest one in the world, regardless of the name. It is located in the Genting Highlands in the Titiwangsa Mountains. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that again. This 7,351 room hotel is specifically a casino resort, and over the past 20 years of its existence, it claimed the lives of enough people for anyone to avoid this place altogether. Since many people who go there are gamblers, a lot of the people who passed away there are those who took their own lives due to the issues associated with gambling. Odd thing is that people report that the most paranormal activity lies on floor 21, except when you try to visit the floor, you'll notice there's no button for it on the elevator. Guests now report everything you would hear from a gambler who lost big. They hear crying, wailing, and loud footsteps when no one is around them. Reports of poltergeists occur in the rooms and corridors at night, and in some cases, some rooms are shut down because many guests would fall ill in one or after staying in the room.
Now coming in at our number 1 spot, Pokong. In a traditional Malay funeral, a body is wrapped in a white cloth before it is prayed over and laid to rest. According to the Muslim funeral practice, a body has to be tied at several places to keep the cloth in place. When the wrapped body is laid into the grave, the knot keeping the coffin cloth in place is usually removed. Malays believe that after death, the soul of this body will stay on earth for 40 days. Pokong is a mummy-like appearance and is said to be a deceased body covered in burial dirt. If the knot is not removed and stays on beyond 40 days, the body could turn into a ghost and literally jump out of its grave. Only when this knot is taken away will the ghost stop haunting people. People believe that this type of ghost tends to disturb or meet those who have weak spirits. It is common knowledge among Asians that this ghost can move as fast as the jumping vampire. Its leap ranges from 50 meters per jump to over 100 meters. This energetic spirit is believed to be able to roll around and move as fast as a speeding car, and is usually found in villages wandering around. Starting off this countdown at number 10, the Singapore Stone. Did you know that Singapore has its very own Hercules? Known as Badang, a poor fisherman lived his humble life by the Singapore River. When he realized a water djinn had been stealing his fishes, he set a trap to catch the spirit red-handed. He then confronted the captured spirit, who promised to grant his wish in return for its release. Badang proceeded to wish for superhuman strength, and was soon appointed court warrior by the Sultan of Singapore. Warriors from far and wide started swarming in to challenge the strong man, including India's Wadi Vijaya. The two dueled in a series of contests, and the last one saw them lifting a massive rock and throwing it towards the Singapore River. The rock was discovered years later at the spot where it was said to have landed, and not just that, there was an inscription on it, probably to commemorate Badang's achievement. However, only a fragment of the rock survives today, and as it's been said, the Brits blasted it to pieces in 1843. While it's housed in the temporary closed National Museum of Singapore, you can still see it online.
Barely a meter wide, the Singapore Stone is a fragment of a large sandstone slab that once stood at the mouth of the Singapore River. Blown up in 1843 to widen the passageway of the river mouth, this fragment is believed to be over 1,000 years old.
Number 9. Red Hill. Red Hill has a bloody tale behind its name. As strange as it sounds, it all started with a swordfish infestation, where the sea creatures attacked unsuspected villagers and fishermen by the shore. An idea came out of using banana tree trunks as a barricade to trap the swordfishes. He brought this up to the Sultan, who granted permission to proceed. The brilliant plan worked, earning him the respect and admiration of the villagers, but not the Sultan, who soon became envious of the attention. Out of jealousy, he ordered his men to rid the boy, even taking his life by any means necessary. And so they did. The poor boy's blood flowed down the hill where he lived, staining it blood red, and so that's how it's said it's got its name. Number 8. Kusu Island. An island with an interesting backstory is Kusu Island, also known as a sacred site. The island is home to a Chinese temple and 3 Malay shrines. But do you know where it gets its name from? Kusu means turtle in Hokkien, and legend has it that a giant turtle transformed into the island to save stranded sailors and fishermen, victims of the stormy weather. The sailors and fishermen returned the following year and the year after with offerings to show their gratitude. From then on, people head down on the 9th month of the lunar calendar to pay their respects. Number 7. Radin Ma. Radin Ma is the name of the area between Teluk Bangla, Bukit Permi, and Jalan Bukit Merah. Sorry if I mispronounced any of that. As well as a couple of known landmarks around the city. It's also the name of a Javanese princess, Radin Ma Ayu. Her father was a warrior prince, her mother was a commoner, and their marriage was condemned by the Sultan. One day, while the warrior prince was away on an expedition, the Sultan ordered his men to burn their house down, killing his wife. Radin, however, was saved by a loyal servant. Upon his return, the devastated warrior prince left the Javanese kingdom for Temasek with his baby daughter. Soon after their arrival, the Sultan of Temasek arranged for the warrior prince to marry his daughter, similar to the tale of Cinderella. Radin's new stepmother wasn't a big fan of hers. The plot thickens when the adult Radin was to marry her stepmother's nephew, whom she refused. Not liking her decision, he attacked her main man in life, her father. In an attempt to save him, Radin was hurt in the process, receiving a stab in the heart. It's said that her body is laid to rest at the foot of Mount Faber, where there's a shrine in respect of her loyalty. Number 6. Island of Death. Plamati, or Island of Death, was a former name of Sentosa. While no one knows exactly just how the island got its morbid name, it's been said that the island was once a place of piracy and bloodshed. Other reasons behind its name include the location of the island, which was adjacent to Palu Brani, which was the burial ground for many ancient Malay warriors. Then there's a tale about a deadly outbreak called the Blakang Mati fever in the late 1840s, which almost wiped out the original Bugis settlers on the island. In 1972, Palu Mati was renamed as Sentosa, or Peace and Tranquility, leaving its past behind. Today, it's a beach resort known as the State of Fun. Halfway number 5 is Singapore. Sang Nila Utama, or Sri Tri Buana, was once the ruler of the Shivajaya Empire at Sumatra. According to legends, he went on an expedition in the late 13th century and discovered an island with a white sandy shore. After learning that the place was called Temasek, Sang decided to cross the waters to reach this newly discovered land. However, a storm appeared out of nowhere and nearly swallowed the boat. In a desperate attempt, Sang threw his crown into the turbulent waters. The weather and the sea immediately became calm, and the crew reached Teluk Blangah safely. As they landed, a strange beast was spotted from afar. Upon hearing that it was a lion, Sang was overjoyed and decided to name the island Sigapura, or Lion City. The discovery was said to have happened in and around AD 1297, and Sang went on to rule for 48 years before his passing. His palace and burial ground was located on top of Bukit Larangang, or Forbidden Hill. Number 4. Sisters Islands. Lying south of Sentosa, Sisters Islands refer to Palu Sabar Darta and Palu Sabar Lut. Many years ago, there was a pair of sisters, Mina and Lena, living by the southern coast of Singapore. Being very attached to each other, the sisters vowed to marry 2 brothers so that they could live together always. However, one night, Lena ran into a group of pirates by the sea. Stunned by her beauty, the pirate chief was determined to marry Lena. When the dawn broke, the pirates came and abducted Lena to their ships. Weeping over the loss of her dear sister, Mina came swimming after the boats. The stormy waters were merciless, and she was doomed eventually. In a desperate attempt, Lena broke free and dived into the sea. The next day, a pair of islands appeared where the sisters had drowned. They were named Sisters Islands by the villagers in memory of the 2 girls.
And legend has it that the next day, after the storm had subsided, Sisters Islands had appeared in the position where the 2 sisters were last seen.
Number 3. Underwater City. Legend has it that Sang Nila Utama was the child between an adventurer king and a princess of an underwater kingdom, like we talked about before. Supposedly, Sang's father Raja had a glass case created for him to descend into the sea because he was curious about what lies beneath the calm waters. He sank into a country called Dika and was greeted by a race of men, and was later taken to meet the ruler of this underwater wonderland. And that's exactly how he met Sang's mum, Princess Mathabu Labari. This world under the sea, however, is scarcely ever mentioned in history books. Number 2, the Merlion. One night, the villagers living by the southern coast of Tesamek were awakened by the howling winds and crashing waves. The dark clouds blocked out the lights of the moon and the stars, turning the world in complete darkness. It was as though the island of Tesamek would be sunk by the raging sea. The terrified villagers got down on their knees and prayed. During this moment, a bright light was observed emerging from the southern waters. A massive creature, half lion, half fish, roared in anger. The battle between the fierce mythical animal and nature was intense, as the sky was filled with flashing lightning. The villagers had never witnessed such terrifying phenomenons before. After some time, the winds began to die down. The waves subsided and the sky started to clear. The gigantic sea beast had won the battle against nature. As it claimed its victory, it stood proudly on Sentosa. By morning, the Merlion had retreated into its waters, leaving behind a bright, colorful trail. Number 1, ghostly passengers. This story originates with taxi drivers, specifically ones who have had the eerie experience of picking up late-night passengers who ask to be dropped off at a cemetery. Usually, the protagonist in the story is a beautiful young woman waiting on a remote road for a taxi. Once she's in the taxi, she doesn't speak again and wordlessly hands the driver money when she arrives at her destination. In the morning, when the driver looks at the money, it's hell notes. Money burnt as an offering have replaced the Singaporean bills.
At number 10 spot, we have the White Lady of Balit Drive. Every country has their own version of the White Lady ghost, and the Philippines is no exception to that. The country started to dread and avoid Balit Drive since the 1950s, when stories about a white lady floating around its streets started to spread around the area. The story goes that a white lady is a student of the University of the Philippines. The woman was the victim to a horrific crime committed by a taxi driver who picked her up, which caused her to pass away. Now, it's said that the ghost of the lady haunts that very street, and its preferred victims are cab drivers. Her ghost dresses up in a white gown, dressed with long hair covering her face like a veil. Drivers who drive on Balit Drive would often drive not knowing that the white lady was silently sitting in their back seat. The only way they find out about this is if they look in their rearview mirror, which they will find the lady in white staring back right at them. This is said to be the reason for all of the accidents on that street, so would you take your chances or would you just take the longer detour?
Now at number 9, the Romblon Triangle. If the North Atlantic has the so-called Bermuda Triangle, the Philippines also has something very similar, and it's called the Romblon Triangle, which is located in the Cebuano Sea with its 3 corners at Mindoro, Panay, and Masbate, in the province of Romblon. The triangle covers a very small area, but due to the countless marine disasters in this area, people started talking about the Philippines' version of the Devil's Triangle. Meanwhile, the Philippine Coast Guard insists that the shipwrecks in the Romblon Triangle are due to the bad weather and technical failure, and nothing mystical. But with that many issues happening within that area, they won't be able to keep calling it bad weather for much longer. Unless it is actually bad weather, but I guess we won't know.
At number 8 spot, we have the My Way Curse. The My Way Curse, or might I say the My Way Killings, is a social phenomenon in my home country, the Philippines. The Philippines has all these type of weird, creepy stories, but I swear it was just a way for our parents to keep us obedient. The curse is linked to the song My Way by Frank Sinatra. Oddly enough, since 2002, there have been unusually high numbers of death linked to this song, especially when people are singing it during a karaoke performance. I mean, this seems like a pretty strange coincidence, but it has been reported on news organizations all around the world, including the renowned New York Times. Due to the negative attention this phenomenon received, bars in the Philippines were completely compelled to totally remove it from their karaoke players. This song is still forbidden in many pubs today, and you risk being ejected from the bar altogether if you attempt to play it.
Number 7, flying coffin. It's normal to see a coffin, though it typically gives us the creeps and goosebumps. But seeing a flying coffin in the middle of the road at night? Well, that's a different thing. Filipinos suggest that the flying coffin is one of the most popular horror stories shared with people. This horror story was even featured in a Halloween special of a TV show. The story is about a man walking in the middle of the night and he sees a flying or floating coffin in the middle of the road, and it then started to quickly fly towards him and almost hit him in the head when all of a sudden it disappeared. This left him horrified, and the story is still known nowadays, especially during Halloween. This one could be true, but it also could maybe just be a campfire story.
At a number 6 spot, we have the Bao Bao. The Bao Bao, otherwise known as the grave robber, is rightfully named that. It's a terrifying humanoid that is known to steal corpses from funerals or a grave to consume them later on. Stories say that the Bao Bao is an undead creature with claws that can rip through flesh, along with razor sharp teeth and a long tongue to effectively consume humans. It uses its long tongue to lick the flesh and suck out the blood of its victims. It's said that once the Bao Bao finishes eating a corpse, it leaves the trunk of a banana tree in the coffin to create the illusion of a stolen corpse. He is often regarded as an aswang as well. For all you non-Filipinos, aswangs are these creatures that haunted all all points of our lives. They're basically these humanoids who separate their lower half of the body in order to fly around and attack unsuspecting babies. Man, the monsters in the Philippines are very creative.
Halfway at number 5, the headless priest. It said that the student was studying late at night at a school library and heard the sound of chains being dragged. When she checked who was making the noise, she found a priest, a headless priest. The priests played a vital role in Philippine history. They were the ones who led the church, and they were also the ones who taught the students in class during the Spanish era. As their name suggests, these clergymen hang out in universities, graveyards, churches, and other places that feel spooky. They sometimes bring their heads with them and seem to be looking for them when they don't. As for their heads, people said that they're either Filipino revolutionaries during the revolution or Japanese soldiers during World War II, cut off the heads of these priests. Other stories about biblical figures whose lives were taken, like St. John the Baptist, have also helped spread urban legends about priests.
All the way at a number 4 spot, we have the Clark Air Base Hospital. This is one of the few places deemed to be haunted, not just in the Philippines, but in the whole world by the Ghost Hunters International. Season 1, episode 20, named Unknown Soldiers, if you guys want to check it out. The hospital was used during World War II and the Vietnam War. It served as an asylum to the wounded and the dying American soldiers. This is why many people around the world claim it is the most haunted place in the Philippines. It's said that the traumas and countless deaths from those conflicts have left their mark on the spirit presence in the hospital. The place is currently abandoned, which gives it this more supernatural look to it, but it's said that if you visit the hospital and sleep within 8 hours after the visit, you experience extreme nightmares and intense lucid dreaming for about a week.
Now at number 3, Diplomat Hotel. The Diplomat Hotel is one of the go-to places for ghost hunters from different parts of the world. In fact, this hotel was featured in documentaries from different countries because of its dark history. The Diplomat Hotel is believed to be built during the early 1900s. This was built to become a vacation house for the Spaniards, priests, and nuns. This hotel is home to many happy and beautiful memories, but all of these changed during World War II. According to the stories, when the Japanese came, they gathered all the people in the hotel, separated them into different rooms, and took all of their lives. The people in the hotel were shot, beheaded, and stabbed. The worst part is the center of the hotel, where the fountain is located in the same place where the children were gathered and their lives were unfortunately taken. After World War II, the vacation house was converted into a hotel, but another tragic incident happened. A fire started in the hotel, and many guests who were staying there unfortunately passed away, which is another reason for the hotel to be haunted. The people working and visiting the hotel have experienced many scary encounters. Most of the people who visited the hotel have almost the same heavy feeling as many people are looking at them.
At a number 2 spot, we have the Malacanang Palace. This extravagant building was used for the official residence and workplace for the President of the Philippines. I covered a video on the White House, and I can confirm nothing good comes from government buildings. Literally nothing. This building is located in the Old Manila district of San Miguel, and this building was built all the way back in 1705, so it has a lot of history, including some dark moments. It used to be the home of every nationality that colonized us, from the Spanish leaders to the Japanese leaders. All sorts of ghostly apparitions are said to reside in the area, such as those of soldiers and children.
Now coming in at number 1, San Juanico Bridge. When Typhoon Yolanda hit the country and almost erased vast areas in Leyte and Tacloban, the over 40 years old San Juanico Bridge remains strong and steady. Impressive, right? Well, what could be the secret to its strength? Legend says that the longevity and strength of the San Juanico Bridge joining the two islands is due to the countless children sacrificed during its construction. Former First Lady Imelda Marcos had allegedly conspired the kidnapping of street kids or random babies from Leyte and Samar, and had offered them in a demonic ritual, mixing their blood with the concrete. At the time, Imelda headed the construction of the bridge, and reportedly performed the sacrifice upon a fortune teller who said children's blood was needed for the project's completion. Bodies of the sacrificed children were then thrown down the bridge. So whenever there are haunting incidences on the bridge, people will remember the story about the unknown children sacrificed here.
Well, there we have it. These were our top 10 Philippine scary urban legends.
We hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Peace.